Hey guys, Bugcat7 here. Okay, it is Wednesday, December 13th, 2023, and thank you for being here. I really do appreciate it. And if you would hit the like button and subscribe, that would be awful nice. Alright, guys, let me see if we can put together a quick one for you. And it's about something that doesn't make sense to me, and if it does make sense, there's only one way it's gonna make sense, and if that's true, then we can forget about much of the history that we're spoon-fed in our, brainwashing facilities called schools, and from the, television, you know. Don't get your history from there, okay? Even the History Channel, they made Jim Vieira and his brother there look like fools because they couldn't find a giant. Well, they knew that already. They did that on purpose. They dug them all up, and you have no access to that anymore. And Smithsonian went out of their way to make sure that nobody's gonna find out about the giants anyway. So let's take a look at the Syracusia, okay? The largest ship of antiquity that they know about, okay? It was commissioned to be built by King Hiero II of Syracusia, which was a Greek city on the island of Sicily in the 3rd century BC. Okay, King Hiero II commissioned Archimedes, the titan of Greek history here, mathematician, inventor, physicist, among other things. He's just an incredible figure from Greek history, and he was commissioned to build this huge ship called the Syracusia. Okay, and not only was it designed as a pleasure ship, but it was designed with armaments as well, so it had all these parapets with soldiers and a garrison on board, with horses and a stable and a temple and a library, which was nothing to sneeze at because there were no printing presses back then. If you had an extensive library and reading room on board the ship, it was gifted to Ptolemy II or Ptolemy III in Egypt at Alexandria, and then renamed the Alexandria, and then Caesar came along in 49 BC, 48 BC, and burned all the ships in the harbor, which lit the city on fire, which burned the library, they say, okay? But I don't care what they say, okay? The ship was renamed the Alexandria, and then gifted. It was at Alexandria because it was the only harbor that could receive the ship. They didn't have one in Sicily. That's why Hiero II sent it over to Ptolemy, because they couldn't put it anywhere over there, apparently. So they gifted it to this guy because he had a large enough harbor there at Alexandria, and there it stayed, apparently, and probably was used many times. Okay? But what's interesting about the Syracusia is that Stella Nova here says, okay, this young lady, scroll up the page here. Alright, okay, so this is for the Wonders of Sicily, I guess, sponsored by Sicily or whatever. I read this article before when I talked about the Syracusia, and in my previous video on it on my other channel, and about how this could have been the floating library at Alexandria, renamed the Alexandria, and that's what burnt down. No building or anything like that, but you got an extensive library aboard a giant ship that has stone buildings built on its deck. I mean, could be, but what interests me about this article here, and it's by Stella Nova, and she's a master's degree in classics and a PhD in ancient history specifically the ancient Greece and Roman Empire, right? So in this, she talks about Marcion and what his description of the ship was and what the cargo manifest was about. Okay, so it says here, Athenaeus in his book De Naviste cited the only description of the vessel and its load was written by the historian Marcion of Phasaelis. According to his narrative, the Syracusia / Alexandria was loaded with 60 measures of corn. Okay, so wait a second. Corn, huh? So we're talking about corn here, right? Corn, right? Well, I thought that it wasn't until Christopher Columbus got here that Europeans even knew about corn. Okay, so how'd corn get on board there? Okay, and did the corn? It supposedly only sailed once to Alexandria for Ptolemy there as a gift. That's the only time it sailed, apparently, that they say. Okay, but I have a feeling that if it had corn on board, it was made to be a transoceanic vessel and not do the thing that most ships did back then, was follow the coasts, the safest way to travel with the coast in sight. This was meant to cross the Mediterranean in open waters and not do this coastline type sailing. So in any case, unless another boat went to the Americas to pick up corn, there's no way that corn could have been there until Christopher Columbus came along, if you believe that baloney story. Okay, but apparently, if you want to go along with the description here, okay, that Marcion had of it with the 60,000 measures of corn on board, well, it must have made that trip. Okay, and why is that not hard to believe? Well, it's real easy, okay, when you know that the Smithsonian, according to Smithsonian Magazine, the first humans to arrive in North America did so by boat. The theory, called the Kelp Highway, suggests that the first humans traveled down the Pacific coast, subsisting on coastal resources. Yes, they found their camps, etc., etc., some camps from prehistoric times and whatnot along the coast, okay, but just camps, okay. Many peoples of the ancient past there in the Americas used hunting camps, okay, when they were in transition. Obviously, if you're in a hunting camp, you're transitioning from one place to another, let's say, okay, long distances or whatever. You're not doing much agriculture there. You're just stopping there for a little while. That doesn't mean you don't do agriculture, okay. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Okay, so whatever. So anyway, the Smithsonian says they came by boat. All right, so I'm thinking about it, and we know that Captain William Bligh, okay, of the famous Bounty, okay, navigated a 23-foot skiff loaded with guys through open ocean, 23-foot skiff, for some 4,000 nautical miles to safety. Okay, it was like an amazing feat. He was got all kinds of awards and everything else like that. Okay, so this guy, managed to go through open ocean in a 23-foot boat loaded with guys to safety. Okay, so let's see now. I think that anybody with a boat could make it to the Americas if they wanted to, and there seems to be, evidence of this around from people who suppose these kind of things. The theory that the Phoenicians were the first to discover the Americas became popular in the 18th century. The theory suggests that the Phoenicians made contact with the Americas in the first millennium BC, before Columbus or Norse settlers, which they find some evidence of this or whatever I've said before. They said, well, they found it, ancient Hebrew. It's not ancient Hebrew. Ancient Hebrew is identical to Phoenician. The whole alphabet, 100% identical. No differences whatsoever. Not at all. Okay, it's identical alphabet. So you think the Phoenicians were the ones with the boats that went sailing around or whatever, and the Hebrews didn't quite do that. All right, so yeah, Phoenicians in the Americas. Okay. Let's see. Who else? Ancient Chinese in America. Oh, that's it. That's an interesting one. Genetic study found that some of the first humans in the Americas came from China. The study found that people from what is now China arrived in 2 migrations during and after the last ice age. During the last ice age. Well, that's 12,000 years ago. How'd they come? Well, obviously by boat. All right? Coming by boat. Why? Because they've been doing it all along. All right, Americas was a place to come, okay? All right, so let me see. Who else? Celts in North America. The United States is home to the majority of people with Celtic ancestry. The largest group of Celts came from Ireland, followed by Scotland, Wales, and Cornwall. 2/3 of Celtic Americans came from Ireland, but only half are descendants of families that lived there before the Norse and Norman English invasions. Celtic traders reached North America from 100 BC to 500 AD. And leave Ogham texts in rock faces in West Virginia. In 1964, 2 amateur archaeologists unearthed a stone carving in Wyoming County, West Virginia, that boasted an inscription 10 foot in length. Okay, so evidence of Celts being here. Okay, what about Vikings? Let's see. Vikings arrived in North America in the early 11th century. They established a major camp in northern Newfoundland and may have sailed to other undiscovered lands. Okay, so what we know about the Vikings and all that we know from, television, okay, that tells they're berserkers and they're raping and pillaging and doing all these things, and that's our picture in our minds about the Vikings. You and I both know it, but unfortunately, as I've gone over on my other channel before about the Frisian peoples in North Holland and Germany over there, devoted to friendliest people. Year after year, friendliest people. Okay, on the islands, on the outskirts there of north there, okay, they found evidence of Viking trading posts. Trading posts, not war camps. Okay, trading posts. Okay, so what's going on here in America with all these people visiting from the past? Okay, why would they be here, and evidence of them being here, and blah, blah, blah. We know from Spanish historians that the conquistadors killed somewhere between 14 and 19 million people in Central America. Okay, that's according to them. That's their numbers, not mine. Okay, and not some, alternative person or whatever. That's their official numbers. Okay? Killed somewhere between. There were millions of people here, okay? Unless you risk going to war with millions of people, I would imagine you don't want to do that, besides being that you wanted trade to continue and you didn't know anything about this farming stuff and all this other stuff. That all the ancient peoples here in the Americas apparently knew everything about, going back thousands and thousands of years, judging by all the satellite images of ancient canals all over the place. Okay, the level of commerce and trade that was going on in ancient times is like gigantic. Okay, and I believe what happened is that somewhere in 1200 they had all these great catastrophes and calamities and cataclysms and everything in the Americas and in Europe, and that put an end to all the societies that were around back then. And the last time that people were coming back and forth through the Americas in a trade capacity, right? So it was like 300 more years before Columbus supposedly came over here. They didn't know anything about what was going on in the past. Have no idea whatsoever. Okay, that was all kept from them. I had no idea what was going on prior to that. All right, the Dark Ages, medieval times, the lost 1,000 years, and that Isaac Newton was talking about, and Velikovsky, and this Russian fellow, I forget his name or whatever. Again, this lost time period or whatever was just blank to us and whatnot. We don't know what was going on during those times. So anyway, that was the last time that trade was happening. So the whole story of Columbus finding it and everything is a bunch of baloney story. We don't know anything about the previous past beyond that. The peoples of those times we don't know a lot about. They admitted all over this planet. They haven't done the research and they don't want to. Okay, because it tells a whole different story of the past that they're unfamiliar with. Where all sorts of different kinds of humanoids existed. I don't want to talk about that much, but corn. What is corn doing aboard the Syracusia? Well, evidently it got there somehow. All right, and trade going on between the Americas and everywhere else in this world was going on for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, probably even before the supposed baloney ice age, which there's no such thing. Just more catastrophes and cataclysms going on this planet. Totally life-changing things for peoples. Certainly, after 1200, the Native American peoples went under all sorts of fundamental changes in their societies and all kind of stuff because of these cataclysms. And also in Europe as well. Okay, it's also recorded there after 1200 or when all these societies came to an end and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so, look, all right, the only way corn is getting on a ship like this, okay, is if there's trade going on with the Americas prior to the arrival of Columbus and the rest of these swell guys like the conquistadors who are absolute barbarians, by comparison to the native peoples who helped Cabeza de Vaca and his friends get across America. Okay, they didn't kill him. They were, a couple of them were mean to him or whatever, but they talked their way out of it or whatever because, people can be reasoned with, and they made it their way across the whole lower part of the United States here through God only knows what, and even helped by some tribes, and they entertained them, they, gave them their knowledge and whatever it is, and they made it there, and then Cabeza de Vaca was repulsed by what he saw was going on over there. But in any case, guys, corn on the Syracusia, well, only one way that it got there, okay, if somebody made the trip over to the Americas to get it, see? So, evidence of trade with the Americas before the arrival of Columbus, there's just so much of it. I just talked about so many of them on here that people suppose, well, because they find evidence here, they must have been trying to colonize. No, not colonize. Garrison or set of trading centers, okay, because it's easier to make nice, okay. You can't send over a lot of these voyages and risk all these people and all kind of stuff and the unknown and whatnot. It's just as serious a passage as it was at any time, right? Even for a ship like the Syracusia, who was built for it, apparently, right? So, any case, guys, think about it. Corn aboard the Syracusia, aka the Alexandria, or Syracusia Alexandria, okay? Think about it. Corn on board. Alright, so warm me up some tortillas. I'm ready to get on the Syracusia and take a trip. Right? Midnight buffet and everything. Alright, guys, anyway, Bugcat7 signing out. Peace.